coaching hero, Rich Litvin, recently wrote, "We live in a created world." My reply to him would be, but not all of us knows that. Today, I'm going to talk about the world full of freedom I've created for myself and the ideas that helped me along the way. See, for me, square one came more than 10 years ago. In the world I had created, I lie in a hospital bed dying, powerless, strapped in place. After years of heavy alcohol and drug abuse, my body was giving up. A condition called alcoholic cardiomyopathy had taken hold, and my heart no longer had the power to pump a steady stream of blood into my system. Doctors told my mom I probably would not leave the hospital. But after a few nights, as I lie there unconscious, my blood pressure did something funny. It started rising. My heart, it turns out, wasn't done fighting for me. I walked out of that hospital after 14 days. And I had to start my life over. I had no job, had no home, I had no money. Life had given me a swift kick to the head spiritually. Clearly, my approach wasn't working. I needed a new program. Now, let's be clear, I don't blame society for my decisions. Society doesn't directly tell us alcohol and drugs are the answer when we're lost. But society makes it tough to find the right answers. In the past 10 years, questioning society's default instructions has been key in my recovery. The default program for work and life, it's given to us, our families, our culture, our religion. Since rewiring my approach, I'm now married, I've got 3 kids, I've been sober more than 10 years, and I've created a life of freedom. But I won't be talking about sobriety today. I know part of the reason I turned to drugs and alcohol was I was massively misaligned with my work. I had no purpose. I had no voice. There was no me at work. We spend 90,000 hours, a third of our lives at work. And we give away the freedom we have to create a work life of our own. We choose from the options society gives us. After 2 years of solid sobriety, I re-entered the workforce. Like a phoenix rising from the ashes, I went right back up that corporate ladder. In fact, I arrived at the C-suite and something still wasn't right. I was free from drugs and alcohol, but I wasn't fully free. I needed a new way of working, and I needed new ideas to fuel my path. I needed to start from square one. I had 3 big ideas. Here are the 3 big ideas that changed everything for me. They helped me take a shocking path to becoming an entrepreneur. 1, the structure of work isn't set in stone. 2, I learned entrepreneurs are made, not born. And 3, finding business success, feeling good and being free is an inside game. Let's start with idea number 1. The structure of work isn't set in stone. See, in the US, we have 2 choices. Leave high school and go into a low-paying, low-purpose job, or get a college degree and climb that corporate ladder. That's the ideal choice. That system is designed for us to go to work for someone else, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, 8 to 6, or worse. That's it. We lose track of what the basic purpose of work is: to provide essentials for living. That's when the light bulb turned on for me. I asked a simple question. What if I found another way to provide those essentials outside that structure? What would it take to provide a living for me and my family? And can I do that without working for someone else? What would it take for me to feel fully free? These are powerful questions. And the trigger? My newborn son. When my son was born, I had an hour commute there and an hour commute back per day, 2 hours. I left at 6 in the morning to avoid traffic. And I'd stumble into the house around 5 o'clock, exhausted. I asked myself, what kind of example am I setting? Then the COVID crisis hit. That forced not just me, but the world to question our rules around meetings, physical presence, around hours worked. to the degree Forbes reported some people had 2 jobs at once for 2 corporations. Can you imagine? The default system is so messed up. People had enough time to work for 2 companies. That's insane. So my son and the COVID crisis created these questions in my head around work. And I thought, what if I built something of my own? What if people paid me for my expertise? Could I support my family that way? What if I had no commute? What if I had Mondays off? What if I worked from 7 to 1 instead of 7 to 5? I had to find the answer to these questions about structure because I came to believe work could be more flexible than we're taught. The real eye-opener for me, and you might want to try this too, I sat down with a blank weekly calendar. Totally empty, no calls, no meetings, nothing. And I asked myself, what would an ideal work week look like for me? First things first, I marked Mondays as freedom days, no work. Then I created a recurring event called I'm Outie, Tuesday through Friday from 1 to 5, no afternoon work. I created recurring events for meditation, for exercise, and for naps. Swear to you, I did, even the naps. Then I assigned the remaining time the label of money-making activities. Turns out I want to work about 24 hours per week, not 40 or 50. That's what can happen when you question the default structure of work. It opens your mind. That was the first big idea to me, that work structure isn't set in stone, despite what society tells us. Now, I just had to figure out how to make a living working only 24 hours per week. And that pointed directly at my becoming an entrepreneur. So here's idea number 2. Entrepreneurs are made, not born. So now I knew I had to become an entrepreneur, but society tells us entrepreneurs, they are gifted individuals. They've got lemonade stands by the age of 5. They run a small business by the age of 13. They go to college for a couple of years, they drop out, they start an amazing giant company. In other words, entrepreneurship is for others, not for us, certainly not for me. Just look at the media. Entrepreneurs are deified. They are rock stars. You see them on red carpets. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, the late Steve Jobs, gods in our world. This message creates a gap. It creates an us versus them mentality. It certainly did for me. I told myself, I can't do that. I can't be them. I was even intimidated by people who owned little corner stores. That's not me, I'd say. By believing in that gap, by being intimidated by this thinking, I was giving away the power to create something of my own. It turns out there are myriad paths to entrepreneurship. Just no one ever told me. Listen, I come from a blue-collar family. I am unabashedly the son of a truck driver and a cleaning lady. It is not an entrepreneurial background by a long shot. So I had to learn to think like an entrepreneur, to see the world as an entrepreneur and make decisions like an entrepreneur. The key word there, learn. Here's an example from my experience. So with help from my coach, I decided to take 2 days off to start my side hustle. I was going to set up shop as someone who teaches people in technology how to become leaders. So I planned out my 2 days. I filled it with all my favorite activities: writing, working on a logo, building a website. I was going to be busy. Then my coach told me I wasn't allowed to do any of those things. What? But I'm good at those things. They're comfortable. My coach said being an entrepreneur meant getting uncomfortable, doing new things. Turns out my established corporate skills weren't needed where I was headed. My coach actually made me really angry. She told me I had to go out and create conversations with potential clients. On the first day of my business, conversations, me, an introvert, I had to reach out to people. I thought it was absurd. Then I went out and did it. Then I made my first sale within a week. I had to learn to think differently, to see the world differently, and act differently. In other words, I had to learn to be an entrepreneur. So by questioning society's message and listening to my coach, I built a small business that replaced my corporate job in about a year. And that is pivotal idea number 2. Entrepreneurs are made, not born. Here's idea number 3. This one's important. Finding business success, feeling good and being free is an inside game. Whether you're a corporate worker bee or an entrepreneur, happiness can be elusive. I found success early as an entrepreneur, but I still wasn't happy. What the heck, right? I was missing something. Succeeding, not happy. The world's message to us is that you can buy happiness. Our entire economy is, in fact, designed to teach you that products can solve all your problems and make you happy and complete. We follow Instagram, looking at visual images that tell us what success looks like. It's all focused on our external lives. We download apps to edit our photos so we can change the way others see us. We are obsessed with how other people look and what they do, what they eat, what they wear, even who they hang out with. Now, once I decided the structure of work is not set in stone and I could learn to be an entrepreneur, I finally had to learn how to feel good. Even after I'd recovered from addiction and become an entrepreneur, I was a slave to everything happening around me. I had done all the right things. Why didn't I feel better? This to me was the missing piece. So what did I do? I started working on my mindset. I know, woo-woo stuff. I thought it was utter nonsense too, until I started doing the work. It turns out mindset is just an attitude about a particular area of life. That's it. So if you change your mindset, your experience of the world will change. In other words, we create our own reality by changing how we process circumstances around us. I could talk forever about how I've used mindset work to be happy almost all the time, but I'll give you one quick example, and it's the abundance mindset. I consider that one the big kahuna of mindsets. It goes like this, very simple. There's plenty for everyone. That's it. Plenty of joy, love, ease, satisfaction, freedom. I had spent so much of my life worrying that if others had something, less remained for me. This affected me as an entrepreneur. It kept me awake at night. I worried about the competition, about there being enough clients for me, about my neighbors already being ahead of me in the race of life. After all, if all the success was taken or it were limited, that would leave little or none for me, right? That's what I thought. But by making the shift to believe that creating value creates more value, that feeling joy creates more joy, and that opportunity for success is limitless, I started to actually experience more value, more joy, and more success just by changing my attitude. It's amazing. I've applied this to many of my ways of thinking as an entrepreneur. Attitudes around risk, stress, the need to hustle and grind, the desire to feel ease and relief, and more. This final idea taught me how powerful I am in controlling my experience in life and business. My transformation into an entrepreneur, into a life full of freedom, was complete when I learned how to master my mindset. Only then was I truly happy. And that's idea number 3. Finding business success, feeling good, and being free is an inside game. Listen, my journey hasn't been easy. I wouldn't change it for the world. My recovery from addiction brought me up to a baseline of happiness, but the picture remained incomplete until I questioned the structure of work, until I realized entrepreneurs are made, not born, until I discovered that the work I do, how it flows, and how it feels, these things, they are all up to me. Without these 3 ideas, I would still be struggling at work and in life. I am, as Rich Lippman said, living a created life. I control the structure of my work. I've learned and continue to learn what it takes to be an entrepreneur, and I've gained mastery over the way my mind processes the world. Above all, I now work when I want, how much I want, and with whom I want. And I am free.